Just ahead on One Detroit. The Russia-Ukraine war, surging back into the headlines, a conflict inspiring Metro Detroiters with connections to the region to take action. Coming up, local Ukrainians separate fact from fiction. Ukrainian musicians find ways to protest President Putin's war, while some Russian music students at the University of Michigan lend their support. It's all coming up on One Detroit.
From Delta faucets to Behr paint, Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Support for this program is provided by the Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV, the Kresge Foundation.
The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public TV, among the state's largest foundations committed to Michigan-focused giving. We support organizations that are doing exceptional work in our state. Visit dtefoundation.com to learn more.
Nissan Foundation, and viewers like you.
Just ahead on this week's One Detroit. The invasion of Ukraine began more than 7 months ago, and it's reported Russia is being hit with setbacks. Our One Detroit team has been connecting with those who've been impacted abroad as well as right here in Metro Detroit. We've been sharing their stories about what they're doing in the face of this conflict. Coming up, the band DakhaBrakha talks about protesting Putin and the invasion through their music. Also coming up, a modern-day Kobzar fights to keep Ukrainian culture alive through his storytelling and songs. Plus, Russian music students at the University of Michigan show solidarity with Ukraine and uplift the community through a benefit concert. But first up, as the world watches the developments in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, there is concern over what is fact and what is fiction. Disinformation campaigns led by Russian supporters have spread on the internet, making it difficult to distinguish legitimate news stories from fictional headlines. Two local Ukrainian American attorneys sat down with One Detroit's Bill Kubota to talk about their efforts to tell the real stories of the conflict and to fight back against the false stories online. Plus, they talk about the support they're providing to others and the changes they want to see.
A rally for Ukraine over at the University of Michigan last weekend.
My father-in-law is very conservative, and he attended that rally with me on Saturday. A few months ago, he was calling Vladimir Putin his man, and now he wants to give money to any charity that he can, to end this war.
Natalia Kuyan-Gentry, Detroit attorney and Ukrainian American, lending a voice to the fight, trying to change minds.
And so I convinced him, and I'm sure I convinced other people, but the only way you can do that is by telling your very deep personal story to make it real.
Gentry, a U of M history major, growing up steeped in tradition and culture.
We played soccer together. We played bandura together, which is the instrument behind me. I had to pull it out.
Gentry taught others how to play. The bandura has a special place right here in Michigan. Here's the Ukrainian Bandurist Chorus, the national ensemble based in Metro Detroit.
We've preserved our language. We've preserved our music. We kept it all alive.
It's interesting because Ukrainian was my first language, even though I was born and raised in Metro Detroit.
Dan Terlicki's in Chicago now, also an attorney, while bringing news to Ukrainian Americans through an online radio stream.
Today on Ukraine Watch, I'm speaking with Hans-Peter Midtun. I know the true story. Hey, I'm just a guy, one person here with a laptop and a cell phone.
He's talking to people from all over and inside the war zone.
Maria and Yuri, please stay safe. Please stay in touch. I know what's going on, and I know the people who can tell the true story, and I'm just trying to magnify their voices.
The communication and the direct pipeline to what's happening is different than any other war,
Vladimir Putin's never lost a war. He's invaded sovereign territory 4 times. But I think that this time is different because of the social media. The world is finally starting to see what Ukraine is, not that it's some dark Soviet, remnant. It's a beautiful, vibrant metropolis with history that goes back thousands of years.
The last century's Ukrainian struggle with Russians, the Soviets, it's been ongoing.
My grandmother was an immigrant to this country. She came to Detroit in 1949 after World War II.
Here's Terlicki's grandmother symbolizing Lady Liberty, freedom, chained to a hammer and sickle.
They organized their own media for the time. It wasn't what I'm doing, but I'm just doing what they're doing with new technology.
Ukrainian Americans can connect this war with history they know well, and more of us ought to.
We know about the Armenian genocide. We know about the Holocaust. But
no one knows about the Holodomor. The Holodomor was again a Soviet reaction to what was considered to be mild resistance. The Soviet idea is that you punish the people anytime that they act up.
The Holodomor, 1932 to 1933, an intentional mass starvation that killed many, many millions, mostly Ukrainians.
So my grandparents, all four of them were young kids when the genocide happened. They were all less than 10. Some of their siblings were starved to death. The world did not know about Ukraine's genocide. The Iron Curtain was real. No information came out, and no information came in from the outside world.
Now attorneys Terlecki and Gentry are networking with others trying to bring Ukrainian refugees to the U.S. Nearly 700,000 have fled, mostly women and children. The men held back to fight the Russians. But who else will fight with them?
Ukrainians have a saying: Українець не той, у кого предки українці, а у кого нащадки українці. Your ancestors don't make you Ukrainian, your descendants do. So to every single person in the world who's fighting for freedom and democracy, we are all Ukrainian now.
Next up, the story of a Ukrainian quartet delivering powerful world messages through their music. DakhaBrakha's unique music style is familiar to audiences at the Detroit Concert of Colors and WDET radio listeners. When we first talked to them in March, the band had gone into hiding in Ukraine as Russia started waging war on the country. WDET radio host Ishmael Ahmed heard what was happening on the ground in Ukraine and how the band and other citizens were impacted by the conflict.
DakhaBrakha, likened to Russia's Pussy Riot, persecuted for their fight against political oppression, but DakhaBrakha, they're Ukrainian, with a Detroit connection.
The music is out there. It has a Ukrainian traditional base, but goes every which way. They're big into jazz, they're big into rock. They even do a little bit of Ukrainian rap. But it also has a very classical sound. It's really hard to pinpoint the style because it's their own style.
DakhaBrakha's made appearances in the local Concert of Colors music series, seen here on Detroit Public TV, thanks to Ishmael Ahmed. Ahmed created the series. He got to know the band through his public radio program.
Given that I, work at WDET and do This Island Earth, which is, I guess, a world music show, but a show that is allowed to go everywhere. That's unusual for radio. It's a good fit, and so I play them quite a bit.
Performances like these, perhaps at risk, part of the culture many Ukrainians believe the Russians would like to do away with. Ahmed's talking with the band's artistic manager on the line from Ukraine.
Yes, have you been affected by the bombing?
We can hear it all the time. Sometimes it's closer, sometimes it's far, but my house is still safe.
I was talking to Irina Gorban. She's very much part of the band. She travels with them. She faces everything they face.
We sleep in a bathroom or in a basement, because we have this air alarms all the time.
DakhaBrakha has been protesting war and the Putin regime during their shows for years. The band members are hunkered down in undisclosed locations. They're okay for now.
It's a mainly women's group, and so I don't think men could make that kind of music. They conquer their audiences over and over, and the word spreads. They're now a major world performing group. Turns out that their agent, Bill Smith, is an old friend of mine, and he is a discoverer. He finds some of the best music on the planet, and not your normal music. So he's the one that turned me on to them.
DakhaBrakha first toured North America in 2013, returning often until COVID hit. There were plans to come to the U.S. again in late March, but then came war.
They are literally shelling right now. And one of the things I was warned is that they might have to duck for cover in the middle of the interview, or maybe it wouldn't come off. The Russian authorities are trying to take down internet and all possibility of communications. So this was done under duress, but they are brave, and Irina is brave, and so, they want the world to know what's going on.
I don't know how to explain this, but people get used to it. So now we are all in this kind of stress when we try to be united, try to become, try to help each other. We really believe that it's, as long as we can stay here, we will stay here. I tell this now because now I'm calm and confident. But in several hours, I don't know what will be. So maybe I change my mind in several hours and left city this night or tomorrow, so nobody knows.
Whether it's Concert of Colors or this Island Earth on WDET, we're living in a world where this music is being made, where horrible things are going on, and people are struggling, but they're also struggling to tell us, and they do that through their music. Music is a powerful force. I'm happy that I'm able to help get out the word through these musicians. We have to understand what kind of world we live in, and we can't stay numb to things like starvation and refugees and immigration problems and war. I mean, literally there is war happening all over the planet. Some smaller wars, some huge wars like this one. We've got to be involved. And the music helps us to do that. Do you think that you will ever be playing music again?
For sure. No any doubt. And I think we will do it even sooner than it's expected, because I'm sure now the world needs Ukrainian culture to understand the difference between Ukrainian and Russian people and to see the deepness of Ukraine and Ukrainian culture.
They are a direct target. And they've been told that. They are one of the most powerful voices in Ukraine against what is happening, both culturally and politically. And so they do these interviews at a great, great risk. Well, we'd love to have you back in Detroit.
Thank you. Thank you. We're really also we miss US so much because of these 2 years of break and tour in US. It's really very moving and very, very great to hear this.
DakhaBrakha were able to exit Ukraine and has recently been on tour in the US and Europe. Our next story takes us to Hamtramck. Traveling multi-instrumentalist Yuri Fedinsky is an American-born Ukrainian who recently left his war-torn country with his family. He made his way across the East Coast, Midwest, and parts of Ukraine, entertaining and educating listeners about Ukraine's music and culture, and his fight to keep both from being a casualty of the war. Bill Kubota talks with him about his travels.
Yuri Fedinsky on tour, a Ukrainian storyteller here from the battlefront. Back in June, his one-man show came to the Buksui bookstore in Hamtramck.
I take every invitation very seriously and try to make it out. These are all free events, right? I don't charge anybody anything.
And I used to be Ukrainian American, but I'm not anymore. Now I'm a Ukrainian American Ukrainian.
Fedinsky grew up in North Carolina but emigrated to Ukraine years ago. When the Russians attacked in February, he sent his Ukrainian wife and 4 kids to the U.S. But he stayed as bombs fell, carrying on with an old tradition as a kobzar, a modern-day version, traveling and singing with his custom-stringed instruments, giving moral support to fellow Ukrainians.
And I'm doing what the kobzars did, basically playing a specific repertoire, which was created to keep Ukraine Ukrainian, right? To save our nation, our nationality, which represents our values, who we are on a musical level, on an emotional level, basically a deal in cultural diplomacy, right? Of a wandering musician who can go everywhere.
Early this summer, Fedinsky came in to join his family, then began his American Kobzar tour.
I'm basically talking about my experience during the war, what I do during the war as a musician, reviving the lost Kobzar tradition, playing national instruments, the Kobza, Bandura, and Turban. Seeing the positive results of practicing this tradition, which was destroyed in 1933 by Stalin, basically, to make Ukraine a slave nation.
Fedinsky builds these instruments himself. He says they're easier to make than to play. The bandura, he likens that to what we know as a zither.
Because the bandura is the instrument that you don't have to depress anything. You don't have to fret. The kobzas, you do.
The turban like the others, but with another set of treble strings.
But these are sacred national Ukrainian instruments which most Ukrainians don't know. And how can that be? You know, can you imagine an American seeing guitar and saying, what is this?
With the war on, Fedinsky's dispatches went to Facebook. Here he and his crew of performers shelter in the Kharkiv subway as the city was attacked.
When Putin is sending his forces to the east, right, on the 3rd month of the war, we decided that's the place for us to be. So we got in the car with me and 4 of my students, and we played hundreds of concerts during that month, mostly on the eastern front. This is the cities of Kharkiv, Dnipro, Zaporizhia, Odessa, but also all points in Ukraine. As the Blues Brothers would say, it's a mission from God. They went with me, you know, where I told them, if you don't want to go, I understand. You know, you might get killed. And at one point, I told them, I feel, you know, mortal danger. We very well may die. And if you want to get out, this would be a good time. It's good that not everybody evacuated. There's still people in the cities. Putin wants us all to flee, to go to the west, and he can very simply take Ukraine and conquer it.
So what do? It's the spirit which defends the country.
Now it's August. Fedinsky's going back to Ukraine, his family too, back to live, to a safe place, he says. Then he's headed to the front to serve, as a kobzar again.
I'm convinced that they can't kill me. There's certain convictions I have. And this, you might consider this craziness, it might be completely crazy. I don't know.
Music is very serious stuff. I think Woody Guthrie had on his guitar, "This instrument kills fascists." And it's true, it's true. Wieczny pamięć. Eternal memory. Glory to the heroes. Slava Ukraina and the
Since our story first aired, Yuri headed back to Ukraine in August, building new instruments for his next tour. He says he'll soon be taking his music back to the front lines. Our connection to Ukraine brings us back to Ann Arbor. When Russian saxophonist Valentin Kovalev was reading, listening, and seeing news about the war in Ukraine, he felt compelled to help its citizens. He created a concert in Ann Arbor to fundraise for families in Ukraine. We went to that concert and talked to Kovalev. Here's what he had to say.
I believe that music can bind us together in the darkest of times, and it's our responsibility to use this force as an agent to uplift humanity and help with these kinds of causes.
And for me, it's very important to show as a sign of solidarity with Ukraine that we are, as Russian citizens, we are against of this war. I am a saxophonist. I'm studying here for my master's degree at University of Michigan School of Music, Theater and Dance. And I am a Russian citizen with deep Ukrainian roots. So from my father's side, his grandparents were from Ukraine. And also, funny enough, my sister just got married to a Ukrainian just a few weeks ago. So we are very worried about them, about his side of the family who is remaining in Ukraine and not willing to flee the country.
I am a Russian American. My parents have immigrated here from St. Petersburg in the 1990s. I also have family in Ukraine.
And the whole idea of me doing something about this came to me when at first I read the news online. I was so terrified and so frustrated about this situation. So I have decided to offer free lessons to Ukrainian saxophonists online, and I don't want anything bad happen to them. So I was thinking a lot of time, how can I help as musician to bring some hope in our lives? And so this whole idea of organizing a concert came to my mind.
It is a way to, unite the audience and performers to uplift people in these times, as well as, bring people together in order to raise funds for, helping out on the grounds in Ukraine.
There is a huge fact of propaganda, unfortunately, in all of the countries, and especially in Russia. And by bringing this concert to life, I want everyone to know that Russians are against of this invasion, and we don't support our government.
I think one of the most important things we can do as musicians, again, is to organize concerts like these and, use these gifts in order to, raise funds and keep the conversation going about international conflicts and, how to help people who are oppressed by these regimes. All proceeds will be going towards the Jewish Family Services of Washtenaw County, which are currently aiding refugees arriving in Michigan from Ukraine, as well as the Ukrainian American Crisis Response Committee, and working in the ground on Ukraine.
I hope to bring more awareness to Ukrainian composers and include them in daily basis.
That will do it for this week's One Detroit. Thanks for watching. Make sure to come back for One Detroit Arts and Culture on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. and head to onedetroitpbs.org for all the stories we're working on. Follow us on social media and sign up for our weekly newsletter.
From Delta faucets to Behr paint, Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Support for this program is provided by the Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV, the Kresge Foundation.
The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public TV, among the state's largest foundations committed to Michigan-focused giving. We support organizations that are doing exceptional work in our state. Visit dtefoundation.com to learn more.
Nissan Foundation, and viewers like you.